Disk drives.
Disk drives.
Disk drives.
Disk drives.
The disk drive portion of the conversation surrounding the PS5 Pro that's just been announced is the most interesting part of it because it's where most people have it very, very wrong. I have seen dozens of viral posts and not one of them has touched on what I found as a corporate business analyst in a former life and an MBA. I am not a tech reviewer. This is a different type of video for me, but I am a gamer and a business expert. So we're going to look at what Sony's actually doing and what that means for you as a consumer versus being an expert on the tech side of it. So that's what this video is, and I'm going to show you something nobody else has shown you, guaranteed. So first of all, what is the conversation about the PS5 Pro? Why are people so upset? Okay, so this is the PS5 regular versus slim. We're gonna do this first before we get to Pro, okay? You'll understand why later. I just realized the Murph bud is in the corner. My cat is kind of in the corner of my camera because of how I have my scene set up. Just accept it and believe it. Okay, so PS5 regular. This is the stats for it, okay? And if you see anything wrong, feel free to call it out in the comments. I did look at quite a few sources to try to make sure I have the correct information, and you can see what all of them are kind of here at the top. And this one's going to be a laptop mag one. I was looking for ones that had easy to see tables, okay? Now, the PS5 versus the PS5 Slim. The PS5 came out in 2020. The PS5 Slim came out in 2023. It was a much quieter situation than the PS5 Pro. I remember very few people talking about it in comparison, mostly because it didn't have anything that surprised people. So, you know, all marketing is good marketing is kind of a tactic. So know that the PS5 Pro did something surprising with its price and the way that it marketed it. So people are talking about it a lot more, period. That's a good thing overall. But here's the stats. They pretty much are the exact same thing outside of the physical. The dimensions and weight are different because it is literally a slim version of the PS5. And it has a little bit more storage. That's it. That's pretty much the only difference I can find. I've gone through some information and I cannot find a singular other difference. So internal storage and the actual physical size. The price is also the same. Now, the digital is actually $50 more. Just note that and we'll continue on. The PS5 versus the PS5 Pro. And this says slim, ignore that. They're incorrect. They should really correct that if Games Radar happens to see this. This is the regular, and we know that because the only difference we just called out is the storage, and that 865 is the storage of the PS5 regular, not the slim, which has 1 terabyte. So it's going up by over 1 terabyte for the regular to the Pro, and 1 terabyte for the slim to the Pro. Okay. It looks like the CPU is the same. Output has an increase, and that's going to be because of the change in the GPU. The Wi-Fi goes up to 7 from 6. Of course, the dimensions are different. Hardly matters for most people, most likely. The price is where we're going to really start comparing, okay? And we'll get into the conversation surrounding it after I get all these stats up so that you understand. Now, because it didn't give us any information on the GPU, it says unknown, I dug in more so that we understand the conversation. The PS5 Pro GPU is the star of the show. Right now, all signs are pointing to it being built on the same architecture. When the PS5 came out in 2020, it had 36 units making blah, 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 blah. So basically it's saying, claims the GPU will have 67% more compute units. Okay. What does that mean for all of us who are consumers? Again, this is the consumer and business perspective, not the tech perspective. So from a consumer perspective, for the regular consumers, what this means is it provides better performance when those fidelity modes are enabled. And ray tracing. Let's go to one more so that you understand what the GPU is doing specifically. It will help the post-processing asset achieve higher frame rates at higher resolutions. The standard PS5 uses more conventional anti-aliasing, while the PS5 Pro will utilize machine learning to scale things based on what's being actively rendered on your screen. So what does that do? It tidies up small details. So we're suggesting that the difference between the PS5 and the PS5 Pro is more storage, which you can already do for depending on the speed you want. Again, not a tech expert, but I'm going to go with, let's just say this is $100 worth of, let's say $100 worth of storage to have another terabyte. With that said, let's look at the actual prices and see what people are up in arms about. I made this myself because nobody else had made this. Okay. The ones that I've seen, there are a lot of people who are comparing the PlayStation prices to the external environment, and we'll get into that. So like PlayStation prices forever. So the PS5 regular is $499. The PS5 Slim is also $499. Same price with a little bit more storage and slimmer. So if somebody didn't get the PS5, especially with the bottleneck of even being able to get it for the first couple of years, there might be people who just put it off and hadn't gotten one and wanted one. The PS5 Slim came out 3 years after the launch of the regular, was offered at the same price for a little bit more storage. Though the original PS5 had a stand, the Slim models do not have a regular stand, okay? But it has more storage. So same price, more storage, no stand, slimmer. Then you go to now, and the PS5 Pro with a disk drive. So to compare to the side with a disk drive is $779. That's a pretty big price increase. We're talking $279 different. Is it worth it? You saw what the benefits are. So for those of you who are really, really into graphics and fidelity and you want to have the best possible fidelity that a console can offer, this is going to be it. And it's going to run you less than a PC. And people are going to scream at you and say, no, you can have a PC for this price. Not one that's going to run the way that a console runs. And on top of that, we're talking about consoles. A lot of people want to bring PCs into the conversation, but PCs and consoles have different advantages and disadvantages. And people were like pushing the PC narrative really hard. But what they don't realize is console people and PC people are two different versions of gamers. And don't get me wrong, I have all three consoles and I have a gaming PC that I use mostly for streaming, but do some gaming on as well. It fulfills two different needs in the gamer space, okay? PCs allow for customization and it allows for a higher cap in fidelity and all of the graphical everything, okay? A console is ease of use and consistency. You're not going to get as much consistency from a PC with games most of the time unless you have a really, really high level $3,000 plus gaming PC. And people will yell and say that's not true, but go to any large game in the world ever, any video game, and go and look at the comments on Steam. And you will see multiple dozens of people talking about how the game doesn't work on their PC, even though the specs were supposed to work. And you also see people with games closing out and having updates for other programs and stuff. You know, the PC can do all of these other things, and that's part of their argument. But gamers aren't paying for that to do other things. They're paying for the gaming portions. The other things actually make the experience worse for gaming because the user interface on the console is friendly to gaming specifically. Your store is right there as an app. The automatic downloads are there and it's like in a menu. You have your trophies all there in a menu. The experience is built UI-wise for a gamer and it's ease of use and it's consistent. It is a gaming device versus a PC that you can then customize into a gaming device. Two very different reasons that you would purchase these things. So we should compare this mainly to consoles. I don't care about that PC conversation. It's a completely different conversation that most people are using contexts that don't matter in, okay? If you want to build yourself an $800 gaming PC and that's your vibe, do it. If you want a console that's going to have the highest possible fidelity for a console, that is the PS5 Pro. Now, is it $280 worth for you? Maybe, maybe not. Is it, especially if you trade in your old PS5, and you might get $400 for it or a little bit less, $300 to $400 for it, then you're not having to pay the full $780, right? And on top of that, the reason they are offering two different versions since the very first PS5 is because there are a lot of people, and data shows is that there's an increase of purchasing digital games over physical. And PC gamers, funny enough, the PC gamers and this doesn't have a disk drive people are coming to an agreement on something that they heavily disagree on. It's actually really funny. PCs don't have a disk drive by default, and they're not very popular. And most PC games don't even come in physical copies anymore. What conversation are they really having? So the people who really want their physical games that are complaining about the disk drive, and then the PC people are like, come over here, we have better deal. Ours is worth more and it'll be worth more for longer and you'll be able to play games for longer, but they can't get their physical games over there. It's like the reason people are upset is the disk drive. And then they come over here and they're like, yeah, join us on PC, but the PC doesn't have a disk drive either. And it doesn't have games for the disk drive. If you like physical games, consoles are still That's another advantage to the console, is that consoles actually still have physical games and have physical game disk drives on the console. You can see us gaining towards the conversation of disk drives, but we're not there yet. The other thing about the price is that they don't have a stand, but they didn't have a stand in 2023 either, and they snuck that in and nobody freaking talked about it. There might be a few. I would love to go back and see if there are viral posts about it, but nobody was talking about it last year in what I saw in the gaming space, at least. It was much quieter than it is for the PS5 Pro conversation. And they snuck a few things into the Slim that people didn't quite realize. So we need to compare consoles to consoles, apples to apples, not console to PC, all right? So apples to apples, this is the most powerful console money can buy. So for the luxury gamers, the ones that want the best thing that they can get on console because they like physical games, or they want ease of use, or they want the gaming experience, and they don't want to have to deal with gaming PCs and the extravagant amounts of money that costs, and the settings and the customization, and they just want the ease of use, beautiful, streamlined experience, this is the best that money can buy. Now, is it worth it? Those are two separate things, okay? Now, because they are offering a premium product, they can offer a premium price. Xbox is currently not competing as much in the console space, right? Whether you're an Xbox or PlayStation person, you can agree on that. We can hope that they do, and I've seen somebody, one of my mutuals on Twitter actually suggested that Xbox, his theory is that it might not even sell in the next generation for a console. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think that it could, but not for the reasons that he gave, and we had a good conversation about it, and he pointed out some good things, but I think Xbox is its own really interesting conversation. A lot of people say the consoles for them are loss leaders, and if PS5 doesn't want theirs to be a loss leader, they're increasing the prices, right? And what a loss leader is, for anyone who's not in business, I used to work in telecommunications, and this is public knowledge. It's not something that I'm not supposed to tell you, but the phones are subsidized, and what that means is they are a loss leader for the company. They are not making money. When you buy a phone, the company that you bought the phone from is losing money. If you're buying it straight from Apple, they are making money on the devices most of the time, I would imagine, because they are the manufacturer. But through the third party, through another retailer, they're buying it from Apple or Android or whomever and then reselling it. So they're a reseller, they're another middleman, they're buying it for a cost and then selling it to you. And that cost that they're buying it for is more than what they sell it to you for. So if you got an $1,000 phone, they might be paying $1,500 for it. Okay. What that means is they're not making money from the phone, so how are they a profitable business? They make money from the phone plan. So what consoles, at least Xbox, appears to be doing is pushing their memberships. The Game Pass, right? The Game Pass has been getting better and better, and people are very excited about the new titles that are being offered on Xbox right away versus having to outright buy the game. So that membership is very valuable. So I don't think they're going to stop selling consoles because the console has a value in the market that's different than PC gaming, as we just described. So I think that the Xbox console is valuable simply for giving access to the Game Pass where they can make money. Now, when you look at PlayStation, they also have their own premium membership. I have the premium membership. That was what was valuable for me as a content creator right now, as a gaming content creator. That's not going to be the same for everyone. It depends on what games you like and what you're playing. For me, I played all of Assassin's Creed last year, so that was very valuable for me because it was on there. They had Ubisoft Plus within the PlayStation membership. This year, I played the entire Uncharted series. Some of the Tomb Raiders were on there. I played that series as well. So I look at which games I'm going to be playing for the year, and I invest appropriately. PlayStation has been my main for having the internet for it too, for online gaming when I do that with my community. Next year, it is very possible, depending on what I'm playing, that Xbox might be the one. And so then maybe I would get the Game Pass instead. I don't want to have both at the same time because I can only play a few games at a time in a month, even being a full-time gamer. With all of that said, let's take one more look at this and start to get to the disk drives. PS5 versus PS5 Slim, we saw the only difference was storage plus no stand. So in the Slim, they snuck in the no stand modular marketing technique, okay? So if they're starting to customize the consoles, and we've had customization and additions to consoles for all of human time, and people forget that. We had to have memory cards back in the day. Even though we had memory cards, it never went full modular mode, right? And PC gamers love to talk about their modular, how you can improve the PC over time and do specific upgrades. What this is doing isn't saying you're not getting a disk drive, your disk drives are done. It's saying we're gonna test the market and experiment to see if selling modular upgrades could work better than their current system. I think this is the very first one that came out with two models at once. Oh, you know what? Xbox did it first with the Xbox X and S. never mind. So they're testing the market for giving you different options rather than just saying, here are two companies, here are your two options. They are now giving increased options and testing how they can make more money in doing so while also fulfilling the market needs. So PC gamers say, oh, well, we can upgrade our stuff so ours is more valuable over time. What if they start doing that with consoles and they extend the life of them? So instead of needing to have a short cycle of consoles every 7 years, they can do it now maybe over 10 to 15 years, which with the gaming cycles, the big AAA gaming cycles, think of how long it's taken for GTA 6 to come out, over a decade. And think about Last of Us 1 to Last of Us 2. That was also a decade, I think. I'm trying to remember. So we've got these long development cycles of like a decade. What that means is there's going to be fewer specific to generation games within each console at a 7-year span. So if they lengthen that to 10 to 15 years, but they provide upgrades throughout and different versions of it throughout, they can say the PS5 had all of these titles specific to the PS5 when they move on. And so that's still the same generation. It's just changing the marketing. Even if technically the PS5 Pro is capable of more than the PS5 and could be called a new console, even though it's not capable of much more, it's capable of more. It is an upgrade. They're calling it a PS5 Pro. And they do this a lot with the consoles. This is nothing new. They did PS4, PS4 Slim, and PS4 Pro. It is not a new process for them to have these segmented out between a few different models until you get to the next gen, right? But what is different is having choices within each release. So PS5 had PS5 in digital. Slim had PS5 Slim and PS5 digital. PS5 Pro, they have PS5 Pro digital and PS5 Pro, but they have named it differently and they've shifted. You can see it here. They have shifted. This here is technically the same thing as the Slim digital and the digital when we're looking to actually compare. But this is now the default product. And this is why people are upset, because they're like, they took something away from me, because this is the default that they're selling. And they've shifted the default from here to here, and people are upset. But it's the same thing that they had before when they had the regular and the digital. The only difference is you have to screw the thing on yourself. It's not unavailable. It's not hard to find. And here's a fun fact most people aren't talking about. They offered this with the PS5 Slim. So if you got a digital and you wanted to add a disk drive later, you could. So let's say that you were only playing brand new digital games, but then you decided you wanted to play some of your PS4 games on it and you'd sold your PS4, you didn't want to plug it in. Or let's say that there's more PS5 games coming out and you say, I want that as a collectible item. You can then go and buy it for $80. But if you planned ahead or you had the money on you, you could buy it right out and it's only $50 because it goes from $449 to $499, a $50 difference. Or you could wait and later maybe pay an $80 difference. What's funny, the PS5 versus the PS5 digital is $100 different. The Slim came without a stand, and same with the PS5 Pro. But those do not change the variation in the price between regular and digital, okay? It changes the price going up and down. It does not change them side to side. It does not change the difference between the PS5 and the PS5 digital, okay? So take the stand out for a second and just look at these numbers. $100 difference for just the disk drive in the regular. $50 difference for the disk drive in the Slim. $80 difference for the disk drive in the Pro. The most expensive disk drive was in the PS5 original release. That is what nobody is talking about. They've all missed it because they're not looking at the business, the finances, the marketing. They are just falling for the marketing tricks and they're not seeing it. Nobody has said this except for me that I have seen anywhere, especially when looking at the Slim as well. Nobody has brought in the Slim. I've not seen it anywhere. The PS5 is $100 for the disk drive, which is the digital versus the regular. The Pro is $80. That's less than $100. You are saving $20. If you are someone who wants the physical version, you are now saving money on the disk drive. And people are enraged just because they've marketed it differently. But the price is actually less. Now, if you want the best ratio deal, the disk drive is actually cheapest on the Slim. But funny enough, that's the same exact price as the original. It's just that the digital went up in price. See how fun this is? I love numbers, dude. This is what I used to do for a living. So they play with your mind a little bit because you're like, oh, that's only $50 more. But people are saying, oh, that's $80 more. And on here, they weren't thinking about that at all. They weren't thinking disk drive is $100 more. This is where they trick you. They're not thinking, oh, $100 more for the disk drive. They're thinking $100 less for the digital. Do you see how that works? This is called marketing. So you see this and you say the default PS5 is $500, but if I want to save money, I can get the digital. I'm not going to buy that many physical games anyway. Let's do that. Whereas if they put it as the default option, people say, a PS5, a console without my discs? How dare they? But then they offer the ability for it to be exactly the same as these others for a lesser difference in price than the original. And it's just marketing. It's just makeup. It's just a manipulation tactic for you to not understand the actual money that you're spending. So if you think that the PS5 Pro is worth your money because you want the increased fidelity, ray tracing, best fidelity possible on the market for consoles specifically, and games that are supposedly going to be enhanced for that and be a little bit better, and if the actual literal price of $800 is something you can afford, plus or minus if you sell your old PS5, then this is worth it for you. But if you are just mad that they took away your disk drive, they didn't. It's exactly the same as the first one. You just thought you were saving money if you went digital, and now you think you have to spend money to not be digital. Save money to be digital, spend money to not be digital. There's no real difference between these. None. They're just marketing it differently and you're falling for it. That is what nobody's talking about. So when you decide if the PS5 Pro is for you, ignore the people who have no idea what they're talking about. Think about it from a business perspective, not just your consumer perspective. Don't just fall for marketing. Understand marketing, because that's where you can decide if the product is actually right for you. This has been MADkurious Games Business Talk, which I have never done before. And if you like it and want to see me do it again, please feel free to throw some suggestions in the comments for topics, and I'd be happy to dig in and create something like this for them. I mostly game here. I do not talk about tech most of the time. So if you want to see my live gaming or my gaming analysis, it is not a review. I do analysis and I dig into the components of games just like I've dug in here. I would love to see you on the next one.